Years ago, when I was living in California, every year on Ash Wednesday, we would organize something called Ashes to Go, which was essentially 30 or 40 of us getting up really early, putting on some vestments, getting just a smidgen of basic training, and then we were sent out in teams of 2 to busy street corners, to coffee shops, transit centers, courthouses, wherever. And where we would ask anyone passing by if they would like to receive their ashes. And it was always a lot of fun. We didn't have ice storms there. Local news would come out, everybody checked in on social media. And every year we would give out far more ashes out on street corners than we ever did inside the church. And after doing that for many years, I noticed there was essentially 2 types of people who would engage with us. And, to be clear, there were plenty who wanted absolutely nothing to do with us. But of those who did, the first group was always easy to spot. They were the ones who would come running over, dodging traffic, saying something like, "Oh my gosh, is it Ash Wednesday already? I totally forgot. My mom would kill me. Thank you for being here." For them, we were kind of a convenient way to manage a religious obligation. The other group, they were the far more interesting, and they were really the ones that we were hoping to connect with. They were the ones who had no idea what we were doing out there, had no idea what we were up to, what we were wearing, and they too were easy to spot because they would come over and invariably ask something like, "Okay, what is this all about?" Which, of course, was the very question that we were hoping to provoke out there, to catch total strangers in the midst of the hustle and bustle of the daily grind and see if we might disrupt them just a little bit, to see if we might offer a pause for a moment and invite them to reflect on one of the great questions of life. What's it all about? I think that's the question that Ash Wednesday invites us all to ponder, to step back from our culture of denial and avoidance, and to confront not just our mortality, but to confront the life we've been living, the choices we've made, the things we've done, and the things we've left undone. Ash Wednesday fast forwards us to the end, where with a little wider perspective, we might look back on our life and see if we might begin to write a new song. One of my favorite Ashes to Go stories was a reporter who interviewed us for the 6 o'clock news. After she was done, I asked, "Would you like to receive your ashes?" And she politely declined, said something about needing to keep a professional distance. But she hung around long enough to hear some of the conversations that we were having and some of the prayers that total strangers were sharing. And soon enough, she started to share a little of her own life, how she lost her mom about a year before, and how she was so grateful that she had always been there for her. And then she shared a little about her own struggles, about balancing a busy career with her own children, how she felt pulled in so many directions and sometimes wondered if she made the right choices. And it was about then that she said, maybe I will take those ashes after all.
What's it all about, Elfie? Is it just for the moment we live? What's it all about when you sort it out, Elfie? Are we meant to take more than we give? Or are we meant to be kind? I guess it is wise to be cruel. And if life belongs only to the strong, Elfie, what will you lend on an old golden rule?
What do we have to lend on an old golden rule? What do we really have in this life to give to God and to our neighbor? Jesus reminds us today that whatever it is, whatever it's all about, it won't be something that we do for ourselves or something we do to receive praise from others. It won't be something that we will look good doing or do for our own ego. It won't be something that we can be bought and paid for or something that can be stored up like so much treasure. No, I've been at enough bedsides with those at the end of life and have presided at enough funerals as we celebrate those lives to tell you with a near certainty that the things we value, the things that we remember most about our own lives, are also the things that we are most remembered for when we're gone. And it's never the accomplishments, it's never the awards, it's never the things we owned or the careers we had. It's always, without exception, all the ways that we gave ourselves away to others. Loving them, supporting them, encouraging them, forgiving them, listening to them, taking an interest in their stories, showing up to cheer them on in whatever way we could. The Apostle Paul sums it up with this irony, that it's in our poverty that we make others rich. It's in having nothing that we possess everything. It's a truth of life that I think we all probably know deep down. It kind of has its own gravity sometimes, even if we don't always name it. You can see it as we age and our priorities start to slowly change. I remember watching my own grandparents start to downsize as they got older, giving things away, moving to smaller and smaller homes, living more simply so that they might simply have more time. More time with their kids, their grandkids, time to serve others through their church. I saw it just this past week at a birthday party for someone who had just turned 90 years old, a member of this congregation. But there were no gifts, just people, friends, relatives, neighbors. The guest of honor must have gotten out of his chair 2 or 3 times to toast his guests and to thank them again and again for being the true gifts of his life. When it came time to bring out the cake and they told him it's time to make a wish and to blow out your candles, he was more interested in making his way around the room, going table to table, fidgeting with his camera, so he could get everyone's picture and capture that moment of a wish that had long since come true.
As I believe there's a heaven above, Elfie, I know there's something much more, something even unbelievers can believe in. I believe in love, Elfie. Without true love, we just exist. until you find the love you've missed. You're nothing, Alfie.
This song, Alfie, written by the legendary Burt Bacharach, with lyrics by the equally legendary Hal David, and brought to life here by the incomparable Jill Jack and Dale Greiza on piano. This is a song that has always spoken to my heart, in part because Burt himself sang it the night that my husband Joe and I were engaged. I had arranged for a surprise proposal at the San Diego Symphony in front of, a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand people. And they had never done anything like that before, but I had some friends on the inside who were willing to bend a few rules and break a couple of unwritten ones. And yeah, it caused a bit of a stir, but it all got smoothed over when Burt himself gave us his blessing, and he sent us over a bottle of champagne to our table, and then invited us backstage to celebrate with us. So there's that. But the deeper reason that this song has always spoken to me is because it's such a beautiful, compassionate dialogue. A dialogue with that part of ourselves, which can be lured, if we're not careful, into living just for ourselves, for our own needs and our own comforts, who can hold back when we need to risk our hearts, who can play it safe when we need to trust in God, the part of ourselves who can be too quick to judge and too slow to forgive. Alfie names that tension that we all live in, the same one that St. Paul summarized when he said, "I do not do what I want, but I find myself doing the very thing I despise." But while we may live in that tension, and while there are new temptations around every corner and distractions at every turn, the good news is we don't have to do it on our own. Notice in a few minutes when we come up to receive our ashes, we make them in the sign of the cross, retracing the very same cross that was made on our foreheads at baptism, when we were told that we were marked as Christ's own forever. Marked as Christ's own, so that we would know that we would never be alone, so that we would not need to be afraid, not just of death, but not afraid to truly live, to take a risk, to let the love in our hearts open our lives and to take us places we never dreamed, to bring us together in ways we could never imagine. Lent is a time to take those risks, to remind ourselves that we don't have to wait till the end to be raised from the dead, to practice dying before we die, dying to our fears, our pride, our anger, our self-indulgence, our refusal to make amends, our blindness to others, all those things that keep us divided and keep us separated and keep us from receiving and sharing the love within each of us. Lent invites us to a new fast, not more religious obligations, but a fast that helps us to let go of everything else we've been trying to attach meaning to, everything else we've been trying to find fulfillment in, everything else that we know deep down will one day just leave us empty. To let go of that so that we can be free to let our hearts lead the way to the one thing, the only thing that it's always been all about.
What What's it all about, Elfie? Is it just for the moment we live? What's it all about when you sort it out, Elfie? Are we meant to take more than we give? Or are we meant to be kind? When you walk, let your heart lead the way, and you'll find love any day. Elfie, oh, Elfie.